Do you understand what is meant by ego, consciousness, spiritual awakening, um, the return to self? Does it make sense, all those words? Are all those words confusing? What's the difference between ego and mind? Is there one consciousness or many? It's very confusing, but I want to try to explain to you using a visual metaphor what all of these terms mean, how they relate to each other, what spiritual awakening is, why it often involves a lot of fear, and at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is what is love, what is peace, and what is this illusion we call fear. Okay? So give me 10 minutes and these three pieces of wood, and let's see if I can explain all of this. So, this here is consciousness. It's the creator, the great mystery. It is life, it is the universe, it is consciousness. It is open and vast and plain, and there's only one of it. It is completely united. There's only one consciousness, right? Anything that occurs in this space is still of this space. So you now, as a human being, are born. And when you're born, you are one location of perception. You are looking this way, another person is looking that way. But it's all consciousness experiencing life from different ways. So far, so good. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're born, you're given a mind and a body. And these are tools to help you navigate this localized existence that you have. Nothing's wrong with that. So, to repeat that, there's nothing wrong with the mind. And the mind thinks. There's nothing wrong with thinking. So, you go through life, and as a child, you evolve, young adults, life happens to you, and you start to define yourself. And when you define yourself, you are defining yourself as opposed to the rest of life. I am taller than you or shorter than you. I am of this race or gender, economic class. This is the food that I like. This is the things that I like. These are the things I have no patience for. These are my political views. You define yourself. Now, I won't go into the details, but as you start to do shadow work and observe mental patterns and pain bodies and all these things, you understand that all those definitions, all of them, are based in some way on the illusion of separation. How am I different from you? What do I struggle to achieve in this world? What do I protect myself from in this world? One way of looking at that is that you develop boundaries. So we're going to use this as a metaphor for boundaries. Now, the thing with boundaries is they're based on the illusion of separation. And the illusion of separation is, it creates fear, right? So I'll explain that in a couple minutes. But the boundary is a form of fear. So to get your attention, the boundary puts these walls up, but the walls have this beautiful bright wallpaper on it to really make sure that you can see your boundaries, because nothing will get your attention quite like fear. So you've got your walls up, you have defined your edges. Who are you? And you have become identified with who are you. And if you think of this as a room, you have started to describe yourself as the walls. So remember the space? Remember when this wasn't here? There was only space? That space is still here. In fact, that space has not become two spaces. The space here and the space here are one space. These walls don't mean anything. There's one space. There has always been one space. There will only ever be one space. To say that another way, there is one consciousness. There is one spirit. There is one being. There is one awareness. There is one God. There is not two. There's only one. So, of course, in real life, you would nail your walls together to make them a little bit stronger. And also in real life, it would be a six-sided box, completely sealed off. And so the problem here is when you become identified with the walls strictly. And that is the ego. The ego is the identification with the boundary. And that means that you have stopped realizing that there is space all around you. You have even stopped realizing that there's space inside of you. And you certainly have stopped realizing that the apparent two spaces are one space. That is the madness. Now, when you're identified with this ego, what did we say these boundaries are? These boundaries are a form of the illusion of separation, which shows itself in a fear. So you live your life. The reason you go to work is because you're afraid that you'll starve or you'll be homeless. And the reason you go to school is because you're afraid you won't have a good job. So a lot of what you're living is a form of fear. And then when you say you desire something, like I desire a sweater so that I can be warm, that is also a form of fear in the sense that I am afraid of being cold. So I know these are extremely simplified things. I'm not trivializing life. I'm not saying don't wear a sweater or go to school. I'm just trying to show you that your life becomes comprised of things based in fear. Your desires are just other ways of stating fears, and your awareness of your boundaries is just based on the illusion of separation. So it is the illusion that that you are no longer one with the space around you, the consciousness around you, the spirit around you, the God around you. So, in continuing with this metaphor, your life, you start to populate your life with little thingies, lots of little thingies, right? And inside of this world, you occupy your attention because remember, you are consciousness. You may have a mind and a body, you may have a voice, eyes, hair, face, name, but you are consciousness. You are spirit. And because you have locked yourself into this box, you have locked yourself into the things that are important in your life, important to your attention, to your awareness. And these things become based on what you think you are. So your body, your mind, and the way your apparent separate self relates to other apparently separate people. So you're concerned about the clothes that you wear, you're concerned about the food that you eat, the job that you have, the boyfriend, the parent, the neighbor, your boss, whatever. And after a while, these things start to frustrate you because your true nature understands that I have been pacing back and forth in this box for too long, and this is driving me crazy. This is driving me crazy. So that starts to manifest itself as frustration or depression. It eventually, frustration leads to depression, but it is a complete disenchantment with the objects of your life. You will start to get annoyed at your boss and at your neighbor. You will start to get annoyed at the people in traffic. You will get annoyed at every little thing, and none of the things that you do for pleasure will bring you pleasure anymore. So the food, the sex, the drugs, the entertainment, the videos, the streaming, the blah 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 blah, blah. None of it. It will feel like dead, limp fish. Like, blah, what is this stuff in my life? Because something deep inside of you is saying, I have been trapped in this box for too long. Get me out of this box. Get me out of this box. And that is the beautiful thing about depression, or just simply beginning to hate your entire life. It is actually the voice of your spirit calling you back home. It is a beautiful moment. And with proper guidance and grace, you will come to the point where you realize that what's happening is a spiritual awakening. So, spiritual awakening is the awakening of your spirit. Technically, your spirit was never asleep, so let's call it the remembering of your spirit or the hearing of your spirit's voice once more, right? But let's just say spiritual awakening because that's easier. So, spiritual awakening begins, and you realize that you need, well, you do your shadow work, you do your therapy, you realize I have traumas, I have fears, and you heal that stuff. And then you start to realize that there's vanity in your life, or that you're overly obsessed with the senses, with pleasures. You heal your anger, you work on detaching from these emotions, you detach from emotions, you detach from your desires, you detach from your obsessions. And slowly, these things leave. It's not that they're not in your life, because obviously you still have a boyfriend and you still have clothing, and you still have pretty earrings, and you still have your job, and you still have things that mean a lot to you, but your awareness is no longer completely fixated on these things. Your awareness can relax a bit. And now this room that you have identified as yourself is no longer a collection of things. If you're sitting in your living room right now and I ask you to describe the living room, you will say couch, chair, lamp. But if you remove that, what is left? Walls, right? So at this point in your spiritual awakening journey, you become aware of walls. And this is where it gets a little bit frustrating or discouraging. And this is why I have been doing a series on fear recently, because when you may find that you meditate and all of a sudden your fear rises up in that space. Or you may find I've gone so far in this journey, I've healed so much, I've released so much, I've accepted so much, I've learned so much, and all of a sudden there's all these fears or all these anxieties, all these frustrations, all these limitations. People are annoying me. I'm afraid of people. I can't achieve what I want to achieve. All these more subtle things rise up, and they rise up fiercely. And the reason why they're rising up is because the room is now empty. Or at least your consciousness is no longer obsessed with what's in the room, so you become obsessed with the walls. And remember, these walls are put here to protect you, right? So your egoic identification is actually a runaway form of self-preservation, which is to say that your ego is there to protect you. It is there to keep an eye on you and to warn you. It's like the health and safety department at work. You never ever hear those guys say, "Good morning, guys, it's such a beautiful day." That's just not their job. Their job is to say, "Don't forget to be afraid of this, don't forget to be afraid of that. Did you check this? Did you check that? Did you follow procedure? Did you rehearse? Did you do the emergency drill?" That's their job. Your ego's job is to keep you afraid and to remind you of your apparent separateness from other people. That doesn't make your ego evil. It is literally just an aspect of your being that is there to protect you. Okay, so the walls, right? You've done enough spiritual work to no longer be obsessed with the middle. The walls are calling your attention, and these walls are actually made of fear. And in order to really, really grasp your attention, they have brightly colored wallpaper. The wallpaper is fear. So fear starts to rise up. What if I can't do this? What if I'm fooling myself? What if this is wrong? What if my teacher's crazy? What if this lady's crazy? And all of that. So fear is the number one thing, but there's also anything that involves separation. So I can't stand this person. I judge that person. Why is this happening? Why are you in my life? Those become the issues that rise to the top, because those are the issues that are challenging the final step in your spiritual awakening, which is the apparent separation between you and others. And fear, being the most brightly colored one, will always rise up. And when you ignore the fear, because you have to function, you have to go to work, you're afraid of getting into an accident, but let's face it, you have to get into the car and drive. So when you push the fear away and you're like, you're trying to keep the fear away, that is what you call anxiety. So you either have large bursts of fear in your life or a low background hum of perpetual anxiety. And you have been on this spiritual awakening journey for years, and why is this happening? This doesn't make sense. So what's left to do is, a lot of people try to dismantle the ego, deny the ego, accuse the ego, blame the ego, hate the ego, ignore the ego. That's not going to get you anywhere, but it's also frustrating, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary. At this point, you already have learned you've learned what your spirit is, you've learned what your awareness and consciousness is, you've learned to take it away from certain things. And all you have to do is apply that same teaching, that same skill, to the limitations and the boundaries. And what that means, it is not an act of doing. That's the thing. You're not doing shadow work, you're not doing therapy, you're not doing healing, you're not doing meditation. At this point, what you have to do is not pay attention to these walls, not be afraid, not judge other people. So, how do you not do something? That is a not doing. Well, the opposite of doing is being. And the simplest way I can describe this is that when you cease to be aware of the walls, you're aware of this space. And remember, there's only one space. You're aware of this space, which temporarily binds you or limits you, and you're aware of this space, which you also are. To continue with the metaphor of the living room, you're sitting in your living room right now, and I ask you to describe it. You say couch, table, lamp. If you remove all of that, or I say ignore all of that, detach from all of that, now describe the room. You will say this room is 20 feet by 20 feet with 7 foot, 8 foot ceilings, and it's made out of brick or wood or whatever. So what you're doing instinctively is describing the walls, the ceiling, the floors. You're describing the border of the room. Now let me tell you, turn your eyes away from that also. Ignore the contents of the room, ignore the limitations of the room. Now describe the room to me. Describe this living room that you're sitting in. The living room consists of space. Every room consists of space. Now, to continue with this metaphor, if I ask you to describe the bedroom right next to you, or the bathroom, or the kitchen, do the same thing. Don't even start to describe the contents of the room. Don't describe the walls or the ceiling or the floor. What do you describe? Space. Is the space inside of your living room different from the space in your bedroom, in your kitchen, or in your bathroom? Or is it one space separated by walls? This concept is what being is. The action, activity, practice of being or awareness, or holding, witnessing presence, or being the observer. That's what that is. So you're trying to apply that back to this metaphor of life. You are a separate, individualized being with borders that evolve naturally based on your experiences in life. And there's another room and another room and another room, and those are different people. Those are different places, different things, different objects, different desires, different goals, different systems, right? So another group of walls would be your friend, your neighbor. Another group of walls would be your country, your political system, your economy. Everything is a collection of walls, but it is only creating fear or frustration because you're thinking about the walls. You need to spend time thinking about the space. And when you think about the space, the walls become they're not an issue. You don't need to get rid of them. You don't need to get rid of your ego. You don't need to get rid of your separation. You just need to realize I am basking in the feeling of the space. And that space is what we call being. So when I bask in being, I be here and be here, because there isn't two beings. This space is spacing here and spacing here. It is not being like, I'm here for a while and then I'll open the door and go outside and be here. No. Space, space. One space. Being, being. One being. Consciousness, consciousness. One consciousness. When you sit, in the beginning, you'll sit for 1 second, and then a minute, and then an hour. And you'll experience this thing called being with a capital B. And you'll realize it's not a person, nor is it a verb. It is not an action. It is a state. It is, in fact, it is everything. It is every single thing. Everything is being. That takes away all of the fear, anxiety, hatred, judgment, frustration. It takes away all of the obsessions and all of the sense of lack. It takes away that feeling of being on a hamster wheel, running to nowhere forever. And it gets you back into your original state. So in your awareness, these don't exist anymore. And in your awareness, there's this. This is God. Maybe you're not comfortable with that word. A lot of people aren't. It's consciousness, it's being, it's spirit, it's unity, it's all there is. And the reason I love the word God is because possibly one of the greatest phrases ever said in the world is that God is love. When you start experiencing this, you start to understand what this is, its nature. This is peaceful, it is peace. This is love, it loves, and it feels love, and it is love. This is everything, so this is abundant. This has no scarcity. This has everything, so it is content. It has no yearning. This state of being immediately removes every single concern or lack that you have ever had instantly. And the challenge, therefore, is to try to dwell in this state of being as often as possible. But you also don't have to be some sort of yogi living in a cave, perpetually chanting, perpetually experiencing being. If you experience being even just a few minutes a day, you remind yourself of what you are not. So you are not your walls and you are not the thingies in your life, right? You remind yourself that you are this. And then you experience the nature of this. The nature of this is peace and love. It is content, it is happy, it is fulfilled, it is abundant. And when you breathe that in, you take a lungful of that breath in, and you walk out of your door on a morning and you face life with that knowledge, you are unstoppable, utterly unstoppable. You will not get distracted for more than a moment or two by office gossip or the terrible headlines on the newspapers today. You will not be saddened by memories. You will not say negative things about yourself. You will not stand in the way of your own achievements by saying those achievements are not possible. And I mean, we can go on. I'll do another video about how this applies to manifesting. Why are you even trying to manifest something that is based on the belief that you don't have it? When you experience being in your life, you realize that you have everything, that you are everything, that you need and want nothing. And from there, desires arise that have nothing to do with lack. Desires arise that have to do more with appetite, like, wouldn't it be nice to do this? And then you go out and you do it. And you don't put a wall in front of you that says this is impossible, it can't be done. You know that note from the health and safety department that says, we advise against this. You know, just go and do it. And you want better things and you achieve them with greater ease because you have started your day anchored in being. Okay, this video is probably way too long. I could go on forever about this stuff. Please leave comments. Let me know what you think, what you grasped, what you enjoyed, and what else I could elaborate on. I know that I could make a video out of each and every sentence in this particular video, and I probably will. For now, I advise that you check out my channel. There's a few short videos on being, there's a couple of guided processes on being, and there is one guided meditation which is in the meditation playlist. It's called I Am. Just do that. It's 10-12 minutes long. Do it every single day until you grasp what I'm talking about, not with your mind, but with your heart, the part of you that loves. When you become the observer, you'll know that you're the peaceful one, you're the loving one. You are all of that already. So I hope this was a good video. I apologize for the, improvisational nature of it, but it's just something that's been in my mind. I literally woke up with this in my mind this morning, and I couldn't go on. I had a different video planned, and I couldn't go on with that one until I got this one out. So thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.